one new gold stock making big headlines since its start last April, acquiring gold for $5 to $10 per ounce in the ground, which is dramatically lower than the $50 to $100 per ounce in the ground other companies have been paying. To learn more about what hard asset investors are calling a mineral bank, visit futuremoneytrends.com/investright. Greetings and thank you for joining us at futuremoneytrends.com. I have the one guest that you want to hear from today after the Fed just announced that they will yet again take a pass on these 4 interest rate hikes that they had projected for whole entire 2015. It was coming, and it's not coming again. Our guest today is Andy Hoffman of Miles Franklin, milesfranklin.com, the absolute best place and safest place to get your gold and silver bullion and coins. I should note that there are several articles out this past week. The U.S. is being flooded with fake gold and silver coins. So be very prudent. This is not, an all-in endorsement for Miles Franklin. I know there are other great companies as well, but I have met Andy Schekman and Andy Hoffman many, many times, and I can tell you this, and I've said it in other interviews. When you go to certain conferences where the companies even have their own bullion companies like Sprott, the Miles Franklin company is the one that they're endorsing and telling people to buy from. So, Andy, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. And while we're on that topic of counterfeits, again, we don't want to overstate when we say flooded, but certainly there's been an increase in counterfeits from essentially nothing to something that's material in recent years, coming from China and always being sold on, let's say, eBay or Craigslist. And I'm looking for the title of the article. I wrote an amazing article. Maybe here it is. I wrote it on May 19th, the day before our meeting in Houston, in which I see like 10 or 12,000 people have watched the podcast. Everyone should Google special supplement, counterfeit coins, you get what you pay for. And in it, I discuss exactly this topic of counterfeits and how to avoid it and everything you could possibly want to know. And you know what the best way to avoid it is, Daniel? Use a reputable dealer like Miles Franklin, not Craigslist or eBay. And most importantly, when I say you get what you pay for, anytime a deal seems too good to be true, meaning the price is lower than everyone else, you can bet that there's some kind of string attached. Like, for instance, it's counterfeit.
Yeah, so you're telling me this gold I've been buying from the guy next door for $800 an ounce might be fake?
Hey, look, you get what you pay for, my friend.
Of course, just joking there. But on a more serious note, the Federal Reserve, what are your thoughts today? I mean, they have been pumping and pushing out there that they are going to be raising rates because the economy is recovered. They need to normalize things. And man, talk about totally just kicking the can again.
Well, when it comes to this meeting, I mean, we talk about last month's what I call FOMC minutes attack, which, a day later, that was May 18th, and on May 19th, which, by the way, is the same day I put out that counterfeit coin. I was very busy. Article that I put out I was busy that day. I did an audio blog that was 42 minutes long that says it was called the FOMC minutes attack, the pathetic FOMC minutes attack will miserably fail. And in it, I detailed that they were lying from the beginning. The only reason they even came up with that out of the blue amidst these horrible economic conditions was because the COT commercials had gotten themselves into the biggest naked short position in the history of the COMEX in both gold and silver. And even though, of course, rising rates by a quarter point certainly is not gold bearish in this environment. Heck, I mean, gold bottomed the day that the Fed raised rates in December. They figured, well, if we can just, put this out and start smashing prices, maybe we can get prices down and we can cover our shorts. Well, guess what? Here we are today. Gold is right back to its highs. Silver is right back to its highs. And you know what? The COMEX commercials have not been able to cover their shorts at all. They're right near those all-time highs. That's why I think they are about to get annihilated. And that's why kudos to Jim Rickards for getting on an quote emergency phone call last night and saying that this would be the event that would catalyze gold's move above 1,300 and to 2,000 and beyond. Because I really do believe, as I wrote in my article titled today, it was not necessarily the call of a lifetime for him, but that this is the moment in time where you need to protect yourself, because all hell is about to break loose in the next 6 months of this year.
Where does Brexit fit into all this, and do you think it's going to happen? I remember we talked about the Swiss vote last year, and it really looked neck and neck. And then it's the old saying that I think came from Stalin: it's not who votes, but who counts the vote. But what is your opinion, and what are you seeing? Because I know you monitor these things. Does it look like Brexit's going to happen?
Okay, well, first, if you're talking about the Swiss gold referendum, believe it or not, that's not even last year. That's November of 2014.
Wow.
And while yes, the initial poll, and I'm talking about the very, very initial poll, had the buy gold people ahead by a little bit. It was just the initial poll. It didn't take long for those polls to switch. And of course, between the smashing of gold, and by the way, gold bottomed the day of the referendum because they smashed it down, and the stock markets were going up and the propaganda. So that one really had no chance of passing at any time, maybe when the first polls came out. So I don't think it's really comparable. In this case, the polls now are showing a dominating lead in both the betting money and the actual polling, both online and telephones. So I think it's pretty much guaranteed it's going to pass. It's kind of like people saying, well, the Fed, they're going to raise rates after all that's happened in recent weeks, just because at one point they said they were considering it. No, I mean, yes, at one point a few weeks ago, it looked like the Remains were going to win. They're not going to win. It's going to happen. The polls are just dramatically swinging in favor of Brexit. And you know what? They should. You say I monitor it. You're damn right I monitor it. I've probably spent more time on it than anyone in our community. I wrote an article a month ago, which was called, it was called the most important and precious metal bullish election in history. That was the title of my article. I truly believe that the Brexit is the most important election in human history, because I believe that once it goes through, it's going to cause all of the simmering nationalistic movements around, especially Europe, but everywhere, including here in the States. Heck, I think it's going to fuel the breakup of the European Union, the European currency, and create all kinds of nasty things in the political and social realm. So yes, I believe that strongly. I told everyone they should watch Brexit the movie. It's a free documentary that's online. It's an hour long, and I told everyone you should watch Stefan Molyneux's podcast about the truth about Brexit, about the immigration issues. I can't imagine any self-respect in Britain would say no to it. The only people who want to stay are the prime minister, who's in bed with the other Western leaders like Obama. So I believe it's going to go through very, very strongly. I believe it's going to cause chaos in the currency and financial markets. And I don't think there's been any more bullish. I don't think you could, aside from Deutsche Bank collapsing, which may happen on the same day, I don't think you could find another event that's as sweepingly bullish for precious metals out there.
Andy, one of the questions that we've been getting from a few people is that when the cartel tried to take gold sub 1,000, they gave it their best effort, with major banks calling for gold 800. They certainly had a good run, but a lot of people are worried that the cartel may be regrouping, that this may be short-lived. I looked at the gold inflows, even when gold had a pullback here, whether it was the ETFs or physical or even the mining shares, and the money did not stop. It was increasing. I think this is kind of a loaded question for you, but for those subscribers out there still worrying and concerned because of what happened over the past 4 or 5 years, is it now essentially safe to say that the money and the demand into gold is unstoppable? The cartel is completely helpless at this point.
The answer is yes. Not completely helpless. They'll fight to the death, their own death. But to say that they're regrouping, I just said, I'm not saying it to you, I'm saying the people, the cartel took their largest ever naked short position on the COMEX this spring, with prices at $1,200 gold and $16 silver. That's how scared they were. Not at $50 silver and $2,000 gold. $1,216. That's how scared. That's how delicate things are. And what happened? The best that they could do was get gold to go from 13 to 12, and now it's back at 13, and silver from 18 to 16, and now it's back to 1750. That's the best they could do. Then they are at their all-time short position as we speak. You think that people aren't buying right now? They tried to cover their short. They can't. The speculators are going to attack them. You get Deutsche Bank. Remember, Deutsche Bank was a company that just admitted that they were manipulating gold, and they were about to go bankrupt. I wrote on Saturday my article. I mean, it's not new from people listening to me. My article Saturday was called "The Lehman of Europe Prepares to Collapse." So no, the cartel they're as dead as the Federal Reserve is right now. Doesn't mean they won't fight. They're still there fighting as we speak. But to say they're regrouping, they are dead. The Federal Reserve is dead in the water. The Bank of Japan is dead in the water. ECB is dead in the water. Next week, the Bank of England will be dead in the water when they come out after the Brexit and say, oh, we're going to do whatever. They've already said yesterday, we're going to do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, we'll do as much as what the Fed has done. Nothing. It will make things worse. As far as people getting scared, here's what I got to tell you, okay? We're scared because we've been conditioned over the past 3 or 4 years to think that they always win. Frankly, we've been conditioned for the past 14 years of frustration and annoyance, even when prices are going up. But the fact is, we're in a bull market now. We are no longer, and I don't even call the last 4 years a, quote, bear market. It was really just the cartel went crazy. I called it the point of no return in the fall of 2011, when they realized we have to manipulate markets all day long, every day. And all that did was heighten the demand and destroy the supply and the production going forward. And it bought them overseas just 2 years, because gold prices bottomed in every currency pretty much overseas 2 years ago. And it bottomed here in December when the Fed raised rates, ironically. It's a bull market no matter what they do right now. They're going to lose. And any effort to keep the price down right now is only going to do like I'm showing in the COMEX. It's going to cause them to become more paper short as demand becomes more and more larger and larger and supply gets shorter and shorter. No, this is a bull market. And look, this was their big chance, right? Everyone's got to remember this whole drop in gold that occurred, which is now all gone, that occurred in the last month, was entirely due to the Fed pretending that they were going to raise rates, okay? Which I said it the next day in that podcast. They're never going to raise rates again. The next rate hike is going to be due to hyperinflation fears. And I don't even think they'll be able to do it then. This is not 1980. We got $20 trillion of debt. There's going to be no rate hikes ever. They're going to take the system down because they have to pay off off the debts. It's the only way they could do it. So, again, this is a bull market. This is the end game. Look, the Fed came out today as dovish as they could be. I mean, they couldn't have been more dovish. And look at this. As we're about to close, the Dow is about to go negative. Interest rates are plunging because everyone knows QE4 is coming. Commodities are falling again. The copper price is down near its low. Oil prices are now falling again. And what's the only thing going up? Gold and silver. And oh yeah, that twin destroyer of the fiat currency regime I've been talking about, Bitcoin. This is the end game right here. Rickards was right about the timing. We're all right, the people that are like yourself that are listening to this call. It is a bull market. Protect yourself while you can. I wrote last weekend, my article on Monday that I wrote this weekend was, the world changed this weekend. Protect yourself now. Don't you look at that jump up in Bitcoin? You know what that is? That's people terrified. And you're going to see the same move up in gold and silver as this cartel is destroyed in the coming months.
Andy, in the 20 plus years of Miles Franklin's history, has there ever been a time where it's difficult to get supply of precious metals? And then as a follow-up, do you foresee a time when people could actually call up and there might not be any physical supply available, or it might be delayed significantly?
Well, that's a good softball question, because of course there has been. 2008, if you talk about silver, in 2008 we completely ran out for 4 or 5 months. Completely. The premiums on silver were 100%. So if you owned SLV, you lost 65%. If you owned physical silver, you lost nothing. We couldn't get it at all in 2008. And then we had a major supply shortage in 2011 when prices went to $50 an ounce. We had a major silver shortage in 2013 after the alternative currencies destruction rates of April 2013. And of course, last summer we had a massive, massive silver shortage for about 2 or 3 months, premiums exploding higher. So that's 4 times just in the last 7 years in silver. And in gold, we had a major shortage in 2008. We haven't had a shortage since, but we've had tighter supplies simply because silver is such a tighter market. It always shows up first there. And what I'm saying is right now, this very minute, this snapshot in time, the availability has actually been pretty good and premiums have been pretty good. But as I've been saying all year, I mean, again, softball question. I wrote an article last week that was titled "The Upcoming Historic Silver Shortage." It is coming. And I've said all along, it is going to be this year. There is no way we could have had a shortage that bad last year, last summertime, when nothing ever happens, when there was no major crisis going on, compared to what we are headed into right now. We are headed into, in the second half of 2016, the biggest crisis, the biggest financial crisis, let's call it, in human history. We will run out of silver. I can guarantee you we will run out of silver at some time in the next 12 months, possibly in the next 6 months. And what the scary part is, it won't be like 2008, where the powers that be, the Federal Reserve, come in and save the day and normalize things. No, we're going to run out. And at some point, you will not be able to call us. Andy Schectman, who you know very well, we did our meeting together last month. He's been with Miles Franklin. Him and his dad started 27 years ago. He has said all along, what will define the precious metals market in time will be the inability to get supply. There's no doubt in my mind that Miles Franklin will eventually have to close, and all the bullion dealers, because there will not be supply. And most likely it will be because of silver.
That is truly shocking to people who are, first hearing about gold and silver or getting into the precious metals, because there's a lot of new investors. You and I have talked about this on our last interview, just the traffic to some of the websites, the traffic and the people who are calling up Miles Franklin. But certainly when I see the inbounds for the Future Money Trends emails, in the last 4 weeks, I've never seen so many people who have never invested in precious metals, who've never, really considered this stuff. And I think it speaks volumes to what's going on in the underlying economy. Again, of course, this is the same story since 2006, really, 2007. The media continues to report this, amazing, robust economy. Meanwhile, the whole thing is just falling apart and crumbling, and the middle class is just being crushed. Andy Hoffman, when is the next time people can come see you? Like that amazing meeting we had in Houston. Is it Chicago, June 24th, correct?
It is, and I'm going to go over that in a second. But to finish what you were talking about, about the new versus old people, look, I think it was back in February, I wrote institutional gold and silver demand, the final piece of the puzzle, meaning it had been gone for 4 years, since 2011. Retail, definitely still there. Central banks buying hand over fist. What Rickards is trying to say last night was that his banker friend was saying that the Western banks are starting to buy now en masse. And now the Chinese have been waiting to see where the floor of the market is, which after today, he's claiming will be here. And I can't see how anyone cannot see that. So I think all the central banks are all going to be buying at once. The retail, as we just mentioned 2 minutes ago, is as high as it's ever been, and it's only going to get higher. But it's the institutions that have rejoined the market. That's why the mining shares are in a bull market again. The ETFs, the premiums on the Sprott funds and the Central Fund of Canada. And when you talk about new versus old investors, I wrote that article 2 weeks ago or so that's called Precious Metals and Bitcoin, Twin Destroyers of the Fiat Currency Regime. And in it, I start out by saying, wow, I just learned that 90% of all the Bitcoin buying is in China. 90%, and look what it's done. Think about what happens when the rest of the world joins. And the same thing with precious metals. I said from my perch here as marketing director at one of the largest bullion dealers, I said I would guess that 95% of all the buyers right now of precious metals have owned precious metals for at least 5 years, if not more, meaning we still have not seen the new buyers come in yet. The only time we actually have seen new buyers in the whole bull market was at the top in 2011. But I think we're going to see a new breed of fear-based people come in now that the central banks have destroyed themselves. I truly believe that that's what's going to destroy the cartel. And as for when we can be seen, you're absolutely right. I don't know how we could have more perfectly timed it, because when we announced that we do June 24th in Chicago, they didn't even have a Brexit vote on the schedule yet. But yes, it's Friday night, June 24th. Again, free, no strings attached, just like the one we did in Houston. Andy Schectman and myself in Chicago. It's a dinner time event. It will be just as good as the one in Houston, except without a host like yourself. And if you want to come, email me at ahoffman@milesfranklin.com.
Andy, always fascinating to talk to you. ahoffman@milesfranklin.com if you want to attend the June 24th meeting in Chicago, or if you want to send a question Andy's way, please consider milesfranklin.com, or you can give them a call if you go to their website for your precious metal purchases. Andy, again, thank you so much for your time. Hope to talk to you very soon.
And the same to you, Daniel.